If that Tim Walz, that guy got into power, like if Kamala died and Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, was our president, you know how crazy this country would be? That weirdo who puts tampons in the boys' room. And what about our Joy? Like, he's a complete pathological liar. Like a complete liar. Lied about being in Tiananmen Square. Lied about being head coach of a football team.
That Walz guy, I mean, I don't want to be too unfair because I don't know him and I don't have any hard evidence. He's a weirdo. That guy's weird.
He seems very
I'm
strange.
sorry.
Yes.
There's something not right about that guy's personal life. So I hope I'm wrong because I don't want people like that with power. But most people I know with power in Washington have personal lives that would not withstand scrutiny.
Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson just dropped a political bombshell, and Governor Tim Walz is right in the blast zone of firing no-holds-barred showdown the duo tore into Walz's record with brutal precision, exposing jaw-dropping failures, pandemic hypocrisy, and power. Hungry overreach that the media won't dare touch their take-home wasn't just savage, it was surgical. If you think you've seen political accountability, think again. This explosive clash is shaking the establishment to its core, and Walz may never recover.
Oh, he believes a lot of wild things. One of them is transgender surgery for people who are under 13.
So for those out there who are wondering, aren't there something else you could be doing or doesn't seem to impact you in your life? This is what it means to show empathy. This is what it means to be welcoming.
He changed the Minnesota state flag to make it look like a Somali flag. You haven't seen that?
But our current flag is problematic. I think we all.
Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson don't agree on much. One's a beef-eating podcast king with a penchant for DM-fueled rants about elk meat, and aliens. The other is a button-up poster child for suburban rebellion who stares into the camera like he's trying to reach the soul of the American working class telepathically.
Seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up because it's one of my favorite.
What is a woman? What is a woman is the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question here. What do you want me to say?
I want you to say that a woman like me is an adult human female, that men can't become women. You guys are the party of violence, and you're the party erasing women who don't respect us. You're a bigot. You're a misogynist. You're a sexist. Mr. Chairman,
If you are enjoying this breakdown, make sure to subscribe. But when it comes to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, oh buddy, it's unity through destruction. These two formed a tag team so devastating, even professional wrestling promoters would have called it too unrealistic. So what happened to ignite this glorious political pile dramater? It all started with the usual governor getting a little too comfy with his emergency powers.
Get past the core fact about Walz, which is he presided over, allowed the biggest city in the state to get burned down.
And seemed to not only allow it, but kind of
he liked
and
it.
Support it, you know.
Did you see the video of his wife saying, I kept the windows open so I could smell the burning rubber from the riots?
I could smell the burning tires. And I kept the windows open for as long as I could.
I did not see that.
The wife whose hand he shook?
Oh my God. By the way, picking on a little thing, but who the hell shakes their wife's hand?
Walz, once a mild-mannered figure with the charisma of an expired granola bar, decided somewhere along the way that Minnesota wasn't just a state. It was his kingdom. Lockdowns, mandate, school closures, economic choke. Hold you name it, Walz was there with a clipboard, a smug grin, and a brand new rule no one asked for. And that's where the dynamic duo entered.
Think about Walz's descriptions of his military career, because there's some issues there that people have. I don't know if he flat out ever said that he served in Afghanistan, but he certainly didn't dissuade people from saying that he was, when they were saying he didn't correct them.
Right.
There was things.
He did, and he didn't. And you can look at interviews and there's no pushback. There's no excuse me, I didn't go to Iraq, right?
Exactly.
And I retired, as my unit was deploying. And so
we were retired a couple months before.
Rogan, broadcasting from his fortress of protein shakes and flamethrowers kicked. Things off by ripping apart the sheer absurdity of Minnesota's co-policies. He didn't need charts, graphs, or fancy data. Analysts, he just used his favorite tools. Sarcasm, common sense, and the kind of observational roasting that leaves. Thirdery burns on reputations. He grilled Walz like he grills his steaks. Loud, intense, and probably wild. Shirtless, the mask mandates Minnesota's. Government is making people double mask. Outdoors in snowstorm while eating hot. Dish the school closures kids in. Minnesota are learning calculus through Minecraft tutorials while they're teachers. File lawsuits via Zoom and the economic. Shutdowns, you could walk into a weed. Dispensary, but not a gym lifting weights. is more dangerous than lighting up a joint while hugging your grandma. Meanwhile, Tucker Carlson took a slightly different route. He didn't yell, he didn't laugh, he just stared into the camera with that expression that says, you just dropped your freedoms in the toilet and I'm not plunging them out.
He's saying free speech doesn't include hate speech and misinformation.
There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Hey man, you, because everything that we called misinformation just a few years ago, it's on the front page of the New York Times now.
With surgical precision, Tucker went after Walz's entire playbook page by authoritarian page. He rolled out stats like a prosecutor in a courtroom. Small businesses are crushed under bureaucratic boots. Mental health crises are skyrocketing, while government officials enjoy catered luncheons behind closed doors. School kids muzzled and falling behind, while Tim Walz's education department sent out cheerful emails about equity-based outcomes was less an analysis and more a televised public execution. And the internet, it detonated. Clips of Rogan roasting Walz's policies went viral. Before he could even finish a sentence, memes exploded across social media like confetti bombs. Oh no, the Rogan Carlson bulldozer kept rolling. They took a scenic detour to the land of Minnesota's crime rates. Turns out, when you demonize police defund departments and replace law enforcement with community engagement squads trained frame by tick, talk influencers, crime doesn't magically disappear, it throws a block. Party carjacking skyrocketing, lootings, practically seasonal. One grocery store even installed metal detectors next to frozen peas.
A law-abiding grandma that was sentenced to 90 days in jail for opening my business during the shutdowns as a peaceful protest when Minnesota Governor Tim Walz unconstitutionally and illegally shut our businesses down. So my question is, if you were in my situation, would you have done the same thing?
I think what you did is honorable and necessary, and I think that you'll be recorded by someone, maybe silently, as a hero for what you did. Did you serve 90 days?
I served 60.
That's just incredible to me. Let me just say that Walz and every other governor who did anything like that is a monster, and I think on some level he will be punished.
And while Motons begged for safety, Walz responded with a 76-page plan titled Reimagining Community Well-Being, which included meditation seminars and maybe sternly worded letters to repeat offenders. Rogan didn't hold back. He tore into the insanity with the energy of a caffeinated gorilla. You let people loot stores, torch buildings, and then you call it mostly peaceful like it's a camping trip. Meanwhile, if someone tries to open a gym, you find them like they committed tax fraud. Tucker followed suit with a kind of cold fury that makes viewers feel like they've disappointed their dad. He showcased footage of neighborhoods in decline, smashed storefronts, and families fleeing the state like it was the last helicopter out of Saigon. And his message was clear. Tim Walz was less a governor and more an overpromoted school principal who lost control of the lunchroom and decided the solution was to ban pizza, and just when you thought it couldn't get more brutal, education entered the ring. Minnesota used to pride itself on its public schools, but under Walz, education became a game of ideological dodgeball. Kids weren't learning how to read. They were learning how to center their emotional truth while reflecting on systemic paradigms. Standardized testing was racist, discipline was oppressive, and math. Well, who needs math when you've got interpretive dance?
And people call you a Nazi.
Did not see it coming.
There's video of Tim Walz doing the exact same thing.
Right.
And
yes.
he said, of course, it's a Nazi salute. This is how crazy things have gotten.
It's coordinated propaganda. They all say the same thing at the same time using the same phrases. They don't even bother picking up a thesaurus. The Dem leadership issue their instructions and their puppets carry it.
Rogan, a father himself, went ballistic. Your kid can't read, but he knows how to identify microaggressions in a coloring book. That's not education, that's therapy with homework. He even joked that Minnesota students were probably using ChatGPT to do their homework because they didn't trust the curriculum. Tucker, always a gentleman assassin, calmly pointed out that while Minnesota's education rankings plummeted, Walz's administration spent millions on consultants who taught teachers how to dismantle educational hierarchies. Translation: make sure no one learns anything, but everyone feels really good about it. Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson don't team up often. In fact, seeing these two agree on anything feels like watching a UFC fighter high-five a prep school debate champ. But when Minnesota Governor Tim Walz started turning the North Star State into his nanny state nightmare, something strange happened. They united, and when they locked on Walz like a pair of political heat-seeking missiles, it was lights out. It all kicked off with the beautiful chaos of pandemic flashbacks.
Walz, just to descend into the political for a second, what do you make of that pick? How's that going?
I was somewhat surprised
I was
by it. I didn't think
I would have bet money Shapiro was getting it.
Yeah, I thought until, I mean, they kind of sent the signals over the last couple weeks that he was out, but I was assuming Mark Kelly was going to be the guy because he's, from what I understood, they were friendly with Harris. He's got kind of this thing where like, his wife was shot and he's an astronaut.
Walz, a man who somehow has the energy of a substitute teacher and the policies of a prison warden, had taken the idea of emergency powers and turned them into a year-long magic trick one moment. You could walk your dog. The next you were getting a ticket for sitting too close to someone at a park, Minnesota, became the only place on earth where standing next to a lake required 6 feet of distance and possibly a government issued. Permission slip Joe Rogan pounced with his signature mix of meathead. Logic and savage when he roasted Walz like a venison steak at a survivalist retreat, he mocked the state's mask rules for being so inconsistent that they felt like a Mad Lib. So let me get this straight. He ranted you can go to a liquor store, but you can't do squats at a Jim Cole must hate kettlebells Minnesota's policies. We're a CO-themed escape room, designed by confused bureaucrats who'd never seen sunlight. And just when Walz's team thought it couldn't get worse, Tucker Carlson arrived cool calm. And condescending in that way only Tucker can manage, he began dismantling Walz's legacy like a man tearing wallpaper off a condemned house.
Talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it.
First of all, kudos to CBS for allowing Governor Walz to quote Matthew 25:40 without interrupting him and saying, I'm sorry.
He rolled out graph stats and small business horror stories like he was presenting evidence in a high-profile fraud case because frankly it felt like one Tucker spotlighted entire communities crushed under lockdowns, restaurants boarded up like hurricane season, and school children forced into digital classrooms. So badly run. They made dial-up internet look futuristic meanwhile Walz, and his buddies were posing in Zoom meetings talking about reimagining community frameworks, which is code for we. Don't know what we're doing, but it sounds nice. Then came crime, oh boy, under Walz. Minneapolis turned from Minnesota nice to Minnesota heist, while law enforcement budgets were getting diced up like sushi criminals were practically being handed Yelp reviews. Carjackings became as common as snow, and the only safe space left in the city was a cardboard box labeled, "Do not loot." The police were told to stand down. Citizens were told to calm down.
I felt bad for her. I was like, this is affirmative action. This is what it looks like. It's same with Tim Walz. He has that job because he's a white guy. They're like, oh, we need a white guy. And he's an affirmative action hire also. And you saw how afraid he was. He's like, it's not meritocratic at all. That guy did not earn that job. They're like, oh, sort of sexually non-threatening beta male, white guy, over 60 from the Midwest. You. Okay.
And criminals, they were told to fill out a survey on their emotional experience. Rogan was frothing you can't arrest a guy for stealing a TV because it might hurt his feelings. But if a dad takes his kid to a playground during lockdown, he's a war criminal. His voice hit. That pitch where you know he's 2 sentences away from bringing up chimpanzees. Or ayahuasca. Meanwhile, Tucker kept the receipts coming. He showed how under Walz's leadership, Minnesota had turned crime into an art form and safety into a myth. Rogan was losing it. Your kid can't spell his name, but he knows 42 different microaggressions. What are they learning? TikTok sociology. Parents were sending their kids to school and getting back confused, undereducated social activists who couldn't do long division, but had a lot of thoughts on institutional bias.
They decided that J.D. Vance was weird. Yeah. Remember that one?
And then there's weirds everywhere.
Weird. Oh, you don't want a weird guy. Meanwhile, you have fucking Tim Walz. Is your VP? Weird. You don't think that guy's weird?
Super weird.
He's weird in every way. Yeah. The way he walks, the way he waves his hands.
Yeah, he reminds me of the clown emoji.
He's a bizarre guy.
He's a strange dude.
I just don't understand why they made that choice.
Yeah, it gives the creeps.
I just don't understand why they made that choice. There's a lot of other people that are qualified. I don't know why. I read that Kamala Harris made that decision when she was asleep.
Together, they weren't just criticizing, they were obliterating like a 1-2 punch of satire and indignation. They laid bare every absurdity, every contradiction, every smug soundbite Walz ever delivered with a straight-faced to lockdown logic, the rising crime, the clown car education system, the tax-hungry policies. It wasn't a political critique. It was a live roast sponsored by the ghost of common sense. Walz had no defense, not a tweet, not a press conference, just the eerie silence of a man watching his career get hit by a digital freight train, and the people they were watching too laughing, nodding, and maybe wondering why they ever put up with this madness to begin with. They weren't trying to win votes. They didn't want to be mayors, senators, or PDA presidents. They just called out the insanity with the brutal honesty only outsiders can get away with.
True. No, this was your rank in the military.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't deploy for war. You didn't. Why are you saying you deployed at war? The weapons you used in war? No. You were in war. Like, oh, you were a head coach? No, you weren't a head coach. You were the water boy.
Yeah.
The fuck are you talking about?
I thought some of that was weird.
Well, he's just a liar. But that's what a lot of these people are. They're just actors who are ugly. And they're like, well, I can't really make it in show business. And I want a lot of attention. And I want to be a special person. So I'll do politics. I'm good at bullshitting.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, they're trusting. They're like, oh, he's saying the right things. If you say the right things, abracadabra. And then next thing you know.
And Motens, they noticed people started asking questions. Voters began second-guessing their loyalties. Walz, once the golden boy of progressive governance, found himself frantically defending his record with the enthusiasm of someone trying to sell a leaky canoe during a flood. Meanwhile, Rogan and Carlson didn't even break a sweat for them. It was Tuesday, another egotistical politician dragged across the media coliseum and left for the digital wolves when two juggernauts like Rogan and Carlson converge. They don't just expose failures, they broadcast them to millions with humor, precision, and an unapologetic refusal to let nonsense slide.